Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
He's at the 20.
They should stop this one.
What you got? Domination, snot bubbles.
He throws, complete, touchdown. They've got him again. They've got him again. Sack Crumpler, what a throw, what a hit, what a catch.
Defense is just way too much for the Cowboys.
It's caught by Alshon Jeffrey for a touchdown. He pushes, touchdown. Jalen Hurts, touchdown. A.J. Brown, a run. He's going to score.
It's a touchdown by Nick Foles.
The train is in the end zone. Touchdown.
Torrey Smith
In for the touchdown is Jeffrey in. Touchdown. Jalen Hurts.
So as we prepare for week 2 against the Chiefs, there's a couple of interesting things, but also some injuries happening at NovaCare that we have to get into. But we got to start off with some not so good news when after the game against the Cry Girls in week 1, Will Shipley popped up with a fractured rib injury that's now reported to leave him out for about 6 weeks. And man, this is another blow to the Eagles running back room, and now this makes even more sense for why the Birds want to grab Tank Bigsby from the Jags, even though they've been talking to him during the summer. With BVS out now and Will Shipley, Tank Bigsby will definitely have a role in the running back room. But I'm overly optimistic about this team, so by the time Shipley gets back in the lineup, say weeks 6 or 7, we should still be rolling by that time, 5-0, 6-0, hell 7-0 if we need it. You know, you get my drift. But that's not all of the injury news. When Dallas Goedert also popped up with a knee sprain per Elliott Short-Parks, and Goddard wasn't at practice, and Jeff McClain reported that he'll be on the injury report with the knee designation, and this is another huge blow to the Birds because going into week 2, Dallas Goedert is definitely one of the receivers that Hurts will need to get this job done. And Shipley injury didn't hurt me or have me as concerned as this one because I still feel like we can win without Will Shipley. You know, with A.J. Dillon and Saquon Barkley carrying the load, I have no doubt in that duo. And now with the addition of Tank Bigsby, I think we can be solid in that area. But this Goddard injury has me worried just a tad bit because going against the Chiefs and walking into Arrowhead is an all hands on deck kind of a game. The connection between Hurts and Dallas in practice and training camp was reportedly going very well, and this just makes things a bit more challenging. And I just hate to see this injury getting in the way of things, especially going into week 2. And Goddard is entirely too clutch to miss this game. But if he's not able to play due to something as serious as a knee sprain, then better safe than sorry. Let him sit out for week 2, live to fight another day, and we can roll with Grant Calcaterra, who showed some promise last season when substituting for Goddard, and we'll talk about that just a little later. But this is a big blow to Goddard, who also didn't really get that big contract due to these sort of issues. Health and the best ability is availability. It's been a trend for Goddard, missing these early weeks of the regular season in the past 2 to 3 years. Since his rookie season in Philly, Goddard hasn't played all 17 games. He's missed these games early in the season. It's just a trend with Goddard at this point. So hopefully this isn't something huge, but praying for speedy recovery for Dallas Goedert. Now, Landon Dickerson, who went down during week 1 against the Dallas Cry Girls and dropped out of that game, was at practice. I seriously hope Dickerson will be able to get through this season. He looked like he was in an extreme amount of pain Thursday night, but I'm beginning to feel better knowing Dickerson was at practice because everyone around the facility and locker room understands that this is a big game, sort of a must win for the Birds. So there's a big chance that Dickerson will be ready to roll 4 p.m. on Sunday. And we got to see more of Zadarius Smith at Eagles practice yesterday, rocking number 53 along with Tank Bigsby, who's been wearing number 37. And I can't wait to see Bigsby at running back and kick return for the Birds. And Turner McKee is still not throwing because of that broken right thumb. No surprise there. The Birds also made some roster moves last week and this week when the Eagles signed linebacker Patrick Johnson to the active roster, signed running back Montrell Johnson and offensive lineman Holland Pierce to the practice squad, and released wide receiver Elijah Cooks from the squad, then waived defensive line Gabe Hall from the active roster, making room for Tank Bigsby, and released running back Montrell Johnson from the practice squad. Oh, and they signed center/guard Jake Majors to the practice squad, and then signed defensive tackle Gabe Hall back to the practice squad and released defensive tackle Jacob Sykes from the practice squad. Whole lot of moves, a whole lot of shakeups, not nothing major there, just had to get you informed. And as I said earlier, there were some more interesting things happening at the NovaCare facility, which was major when the Eagles reportedly worked out former Eagle and Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver Quez Watkins. And personally, I'm saying no, thank you. But I don't think this is anything to hold your hat on anyway, because seeing as though the wide receiver room is already packed and the hype around Watkins really sizzled out in like 2022. In addition to just boneheaded plays, bad blocks, and to just sum it all up, wasted speed. I mean, Watkins really lost it for the Birds in 2023, and that speed that Watkins once had on the field was just that, empty calories. I mean, it didn't help the offense not one iota. And I was not out on Quez in 2022 as much as everybody else was, but in 2023, geez, and that definitely hasn't changed in the last 2 years. So nah, I'll pass. But there were 5 more workouts along with Quez Watkins that the Birds decided to work out. And along those 5 were Jamin Davis, linebacker, Isaiah Foskey, defensive edge, Ladarius Henderson, he's a guard, Mike Hilton, defensive back, KJ Osborne, wide receiver, and Kadeem Telford, tackle. And the Eagles worked out left-footed punter Luke Elzinga per the transaction wire, and nothing came out of any of these workouts, including the savvy veteran Mike Hilton, who we spoke about in our last video. I'm not surprised that we didn't look more into signing him, seeing as though our defense and cornerback room is still pretty young, and how we didn't even look into getting the even better DBs in free agency like Justin Simmons or Asante Samuel Jr. Now, I'm even more excited with the acquisition of the edge rusher Zadarius Smith. Talk about a guy who's a vet but still has a whole lot left in the tank. Smith's role will most likely be limited with the Birds, especially with the guys that we already have in the house. I mean, he won't be taking up a ton of the snaps, especially away from the rookies and second-year guys, but Smith is definitely a viable pickup. He's still a dog edge rusher on the defensive line, coming off a pretty decent season last year with the Lions, but I honestly can't wait to see more of him.
You briefly describe what you've observed, the identity of this defense that you're doing.
Hungry, man. Like I said, for a team to, win a Super Bowl last year, man, and to come back and to be going hard as they is now at practice, man, it shows a lot, and it shows what type of football team this really is.
How do you feel mentally? I mean, coming in and they just come off a kind of insane game to open up the season, and now they're going to face the Kansas City Chiefs, who they beat
again. How do I feel about it?
Yeah, is that a big spot for you to
Nah, man, you forget that I've been in the league 10 years now. Well, this is the 11th season, man. So I done saw it all except for the Super Bowl. But I done played the Chiefs a lot, throughout my career, man. So it's nothing new to me, man. I consider it as backyard football.
And Smith will be sacking Mahomes in that Philly all-white uniform as Philly released their unis for this week heading into Arrowhead on Sunday. Now, rematches of this magnitude don't come around very often, and history has been on the side of Philadelphia if you check the numbers, as Super Bowl rematches have only occurred 9 times in NFL history, but out of those 9, the team that won the Super Bowl has won the rematch 7 times in the following regular season. And seeing as though Andy Reid has, but Mahomes has never started a season 0-2 in his entire career, the Birds will have a chance to make it 8 times in NFL history. But more importantly, the defense will really have to imitate some of the things that they did in week 1 against Dallas, in addition to some of the things that the Chargers did to the Chiefs in week 1 also, giving up 27 points, 318 passing yards by Herbert, and not to mention the 3 touchdowns, with 2 touchdowns going to wide receiver Quentin Johnston. And Justin Herbert had a rating of 130 on that vaunted Chiefs defense. Ooh. And yeah, some maybe are saying don't count out Kansas City, but there's no question that Hurts can have a similar game, not in terms of passing yards, but those touchdowns will come. Passing touchdowns, those are. And thanks to a lightning delay and some CeeDee Lamb drops, we were able to hold the Cowboys to only 20 points. Which will be a tall task to ask the defense to do again, or even something similar in terms of the cornerback 2 position. And because with how compromised Adoree was in week 1 against Dallas, I just want to tell everyone, prepare for some early head scratching at that position, because when Adoree lines up against the receiver, he gives up so much ground, putting up the length of a damn tow truck in between him and the receiver. If it's going to be that type of performance by Adoree on Sunday, Mahomes will take advantage of the quick game, and it'll feel like death by 1,000 paper cuts getting shredded on 3rd downs. The defense will not be able to get off the field if Adoree Jackson has that same type of performance on Sunday. And at this point, I'm really getting kind of frustrated. I'm only wondering when Vic Fangio will make a permanent switch at the cornerback position, because according to him, Adoree' will start in week 2. So we can only pray to the football gods for a Super Bowl deja vu.
He just got to make sure he's a master technician and not let his technique falter. You know, they have good receivers, and if you don't go about your job the right way from a technique standpoint, those good receivers become impossible to cover.
But hopefully that's bluff, because he said the same thing about the week 1 game against Dallas, saying that Adoree' won't be on a short leash. But after a couple of bad plays, hell, after a couple of bad quarters, Adoree' was definitely seen on the sideline, and Jacorian Bennett did get some reps, but not many, and I really think we need to give him more reps. But nevertheless, Jackson was right back in the lineup to get fried some more by CeeDee Lamb. Now, Jalen Hurts and Goddard were a perfect 7 for 7 on 10 yards, with Goddard leading in receptions, but Jahan Dotson leading in the yards category with 59. Now, one half of that consistency may not be there with the ankle sprain that Dallas Goedert is dealing with, meaning Goddard may be out and tight end Grant Calcaterra is in, leaving him with probably about 2 to 3 receptions. I can't guesstimate this right now. But as far as Jahan, I think he's going to have another big game. And we've talked about him all camp, all offseason. The chemistry with him and Breed of One is just flourishing, and we're seeing it in real time. So I think Dotson will be able to put up another great performance on top of what we'll definitely get out of our core 1A and 1B guys. And I can almost guarantee that the Birds are going to be featuring Smitty and A.J. Brown heavily this week, which will most certainly quiet the noise a little bit. Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown combined for a total of 4 receptions and 24 yards. And yeah, that's very lackluster, but the Cowboys were doing some things to the Eagles to really cancel out swollen skinny Batman. Things that I talked about on my last show, but even A.J. Brown spoke about it as well.
You had 1 catch, but I still thought you had a good game. They just game planned to completely take you out of the game.
Yeah.
You blocked your ass off. You were involved. It looked to me like your body language was awesome. You didn't have any issues. So how does that impact you when you know statistically you're not doing a lot, but you still feel like you're in the game?
I know I'm in the game because, the coverage is getting rotated to me every single play, and even if it's underneath a catch to Dallas Goedert or Jahan getting his one-on-one opportunity, he making the big grab on the post, that's how I know I'm still in this game and in this game, and I'm still affecting this game. So regardless of if I was touching the ball or not, I'm still making an impact on the game. But as a receiver, it is tough because you want to touch the ball, you want to feel like you're contributing, and so. But yeah, that was tough. But I try to do a really good job of staying locked in and staying ready. I've seen a lot of stuff on the internet. Had zero separation and
all
I'm
that
hurt,
bullshit.
I'm a decoy,
We don't need
all
that.
that. And which is crazy because none of those things were true. I got zoned the entire game. I didn't get not one single man rep. So obviously there won't be any separation, and I'm not hurt and I wasn't a decoy, just kind of how the game went, so I just know I'm excited for week 2.
So with that, I think Hurts and Smitty will need to get the game going first, really get the blood flowing of the offense, deep throws to A.J. Brown on the numbers, and most definitely add in some more schemes offensively for Dotson. Let him get the one-on-one matchups and beat his man like he did in New Orleans. Also, I think the Chiefs were really giving up the back end defensively in the Super Bowl, keying in so much on Saquon Barkley. It ultimately costed them that dagger throw to Devontae Smith because Devontae Smith on the deep route, no matter if it is man coverage, is still beating his one-on-ones. But I wonder if Kansas City will still play the same way. They like to play man coverage with Steve Spagnuolo, and Steve has a tendency to get a little tricky with the quarterbacks. So it will be interesting to see this battle between Kevin Patullo and Steve Spagnuolo. But Mahomes and the offense hasn't really been able to convert on deep plays, passes, or whatever downfield, really since the explosive receivers like Tyreek Hill and even Sammy Watkins left. And although Philly has its share of injuries offensively, the Chiefs will be hosting the Birds without their top 2 wide receivers in Rashee Rice due to suspension and Xavier Worthy after he and tight end Travis Kelce accidentally collided on the field in the week 1, causing Worthy to have some shoulder issues, a dislocated shoulder to be exact, leaving Worthy questionable. And Kansas City without Worthy would be down to wide receivers Juju Smith-Schuster, Hollywood Brown, and Tyquan Thornton. And this is truly advantage advantage Philly because, as I've said, KC won't threaten you with explosive plays downfield. And in week 1, the Chiefs converted 7 of 13 on third downs, with Philly converting 8 out of 13 on third down. So it's really going to be a third down battle, especially if Philly can keep the run game going and have it just a little bit better than they did in Dallas. Pretty solid from Philly with the third downs, but the performance from tight end Grant Calcaterra is the performance that I'll be keeping an eye on in this week 2 game, because Grant Calcaterra isn't as solid as Dallas Goedert when it comes to blocking. In terms of blocking, he picked up right where Goddard left off at last season. And after week 7 of the regular season, Grant Calcaterra had 4 catches of 19 yards when only George Kittle had more, averaging 15.5 yards per catch during Goddard's absence, ranking him the highest in the NFL among tight ends with at least 10 catches last year. And if you're still not convinced, I truly don't blame you. But remember, Goddard and Grant Calcaterra also, along with Jack Stoll, had a combined of 36 catches and 496 yards around that time, which at that time put the Eagles on pace to get 87 catches and 1,207 yards from their tight ends. Only the Ravens, Chiefs, Raiders, and 49ers have gotten more production out of their tight ends, and especially in that year with that position. So yeah, some concerns for Goddard, but I'm very optimistic going into this week with tight end 2 for week 2. Now, Josh Uche did get the most pressures with 18 pass rush snaps, 4 pressures, and 43.8 rush win percentage in last week's game against the Cowboys. And I think he'll shine once again, but now with the addition of Jalen Carter. And I'm not going to get into that, but I'm already aware of the anxiety that Carter will have going into this game because he wasn't available in week 1. I'm expecting the Birds defensive line to win on so many rushes. Now, I won't say we're going to sack Mahomes 8 times like we did in the Super Bowl, but if Uche and Moro Jomo can get home early, in addition to some stunts from Carter and Nolan Smith, the Chiefs rookie offensive lineman and Josh Simmons won't know what hit him. And if that defensive line can get home, I have no doubt that the Birds will walk out of Arrowhead with a dub. And with the Commodores losing to the Packers on Thursday Night Football, the Birds are in prime position to take control of the NFC East. Now, I need to get some of your score predictions, so let me know, who do you think is going to be coming out of this matchup the winner? Do you like Philly? Will our cornerbacks get sauced by Mahomes, or will Cooper DeJean have another pick 6 against Mahomes? Will Jahad Campbell have an even better rookie performance than his last? Or will it be Drew Makuba? Or will Fangio even start Drew Makuba at safety again like he did last week against Dallas? You guys let me know down below. So we have a lot of great things going on over here at Eagles Centric. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you can have a chance to be a part of all the fun things we're going to be doing over here at Eagles Centric. Had to do a quick breakdown before Sunday's game to get you all informed. Also, you know the routine. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching once again. Be blessed. Go Birds.